2015 going into 2016 was an exciting time to be an MCU fan. Avengers Age of Ultron had just come out and blown us all away by being pretty alright, we desperately told ourselves as we tried to push down the deep-seated disappointment. And the developers of LEGO Marvel's Avengers were hard at work trying to capture that same disappointing spirit that Age of Ultron did so well. In short, LEGO Marvel's Avengers is a downgrade in pretty much every way from the original. I can only think of one thing that's an improvement from the last game, and it's that they added Quicksilver. This is pretty fun. But beyond that, everything else is a letdown, and I think we need to dust off my old sequel comparison chalkboard to explain why. So it's time to look at everything Marvel superheroes got right and LEGO Avengers got wrong, because it's more than you'd think. One of the most important features of any classic LEGO game is the character roster, and Marvel 1 was no slacker in this department. About 95% of the characters you care about if you're a normie like me were here. In Avengers, you're stuck with only the MCU-based characters. Now this was a reoccurring issue with a lot of the Marvel games at the time. I explicitly remember Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite being shredded for its roster, but it's really bad here. Say goodbye to Wolverine and say hello to Beth the waitress. We heard you didn't really like playing as the Thing, so how about instead you get to be a character named Pound Cakes? Now granted, there are some winners here, chief among them the kid with the potato gun from Iron Man 3. This is pretty good. And also there's a guy named Detroit Steel, but I repeat myself. Hey, what happened to my drums? Now seeing that I get to play as Butterball instead of boring old Spider-Man does make me want to start reading comic books. Like I want to see Butterball fight Pound Cakes, but after saying that sentence out loud I actually don't anymore, so we're gonna move on now. Marvel 1's open world was such a fresh and exciting idea. It really made for a nice change of pace in between doing levels, and with all the fun challenges and cool unlockable characters, it never really felt stale. Here the same map of New York is reused, and by that I mean the map in a game development sense, not in a literal sense, because the literal map in this game is not carried over from Marvel 1, but instead from Zelda 1 on the NES by being completely gray and showing you as a little dot. Did Butterball himself develop this? What is this abomination? Also, the X-Mansion is allegedly missing and there were no witnesses. Don't ask questions, let's move on. But with this being a pretty quick sequel, New York being the same map is kinda understandable, especially because they added a bunch of new open world hubs, like Asgard, Stark's Mansion, and Barton's Farm, among others, which is awesome. It really feels like you're traveling all over the world of the MCU. Like I've always wanted to visit South Africa because of that one scene with the boat and the creepy guy offering people candy. Who wouldn't want to visit here? However, this isn't as cool as it should be because the character rewards here are so lame due to the aforementioned character roster issues. And worst of all, the driving controls were changed to be complete garbage. What on earth happened here? Butterball, you need to fix this crap. What have you done to my car? The Marvel 1 car controls were so fun it felt like GTA for kids. This is like they were trying to bring back the feel from Eminem's kart racing. Come on. Now, Marvel 1's story was always going to be more fun to experience because it wasn't stuck being based on a movie or a pre-existing story. But that didn't mean this game's story had to be bad. I like the MCU movies, or at least the ones from this era, and playing through them should have been a great treat. But right away we got problems here. For some baffling reason, level 1 is the opening scene of Age of Ultron. This makes no sense, and the only reason I can think of is that this was something dumb old Mickey Mouse mandated for marketing reasons. Then you go back to Avengers 1, which is just so weird. Each of the two Avengers movies that were out at the time get a large number of levels. Okay, that makes sense. And a handful of the solo movies get one level each, which is a nice concept. But my main complaint is why not just do that for all of them at this point? Iron Man 1 and 2, Thor 1, Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Incredible Hulk were the only existing movies at that point not represented with a level. That's only like 5 more levels, and I really feel like they could have made it work so that the entire MCU got representation here. I mean, it feels so off that Captain America gets his origin told, but none of the other heroes do. But the biggest thing that's off, by far, is the voice acting. Instead of getting brand new / the official cartoon voices like LEGO Marvel 1 did, or getting the original cast to record lines like frickin' Fantastic Four on the GameCube, here they just awkwardly slice in snippets from the movies, and boy is this clunky and lame. All of the cutscenes are taken directly from the movie and just reanimated over with the LEGO art style. This is just boring and devoid of all soul. Necessity is the mother of innovation. LEGO Star Wars probably couldn't do this, so you got these fun grunts and awesome slapstick humor. But here it's just the movies, but worse. An egregious downgrade from the other LEGO games I've played. I also love how they cut around things like swear words or phrases that are just a little bit too violent for E10+, and it just ruins the flow of the scenes. It's almost funny by accident. And then when you talk to the NPCs that aren't from the movies, it's back to the voice acting style of Marvel 1, which feels way more cartoony, and it just completely clashes with everything else. This just doesn't work. None of this works. You could have just made a cartoonized version of the MCU with the Lego Marvel 1 cast if you didn't want to shell out the big bucks for Robert Downey Jr. to lend his voice acting talents to the game with the other Human Torch because the Human Torch you were thinking of wasn't in the MCU. But come on, you gotta do better than this. It's bizarre that I actually have to have a segment on a LEGO game discussing gameplay differences from the previous installment, because basically all the LEGO games I'd played before this one had the exact same playstyle. Collect studs, find 10 mini-kits, buy characters, press the attack button a bunch, and have fun out there. Here they did their best to mix up some of the aspects of gameplay, which was probably long overdue. However, the issue is that they made things worse in most departments. Let's start with the one good thing. They put checkpoints in the levels that you can return to. This is nice, I like this. Okay, now for the downgrades. Enemies now take several hits to defeat, and this is a horrible pace breaker. In previous LEGO games, you hit one button and watch a minifig explode. Very satisfying. Here you gotta punch the guys like 12 times or do a team-up super attack, which always initiates the same stupid cutscenes and voice lines. Hawkeye kept telling me as a window so many times I felt like I needed a no solicitation sign. Then you have the Hulkbuster level, which just makes for the biggest drop in quality I think I've ever seen in any video game. This entire level is just one massive QuickTime event. You just keep mashing the buttons it says on screen while the same two animations play out for like 15 minutes. It is awful. And I kept having to repeat this one because you had to tell 5 different groups of these idiot civilians to back away from the barricades when this is going on 10 feet away. And I kept missing one. And you also can't backtrack, which is a reoccurring issue in all these levels, even though it was never a problem in previous games. It's just a complete disaster. There's also never any indication that the level's gonna end either. And sometimes you're just in the middle of finding the last mini-kit and you walk through the wrong door and now you gotta redo the whole section of the level over. It takes like 5 minutes to load back into the level too. First you gotta spawn in New York, then you gotta go to the spaceship to go to space, then you gotta watch the spaceship take off, then you gotta circumnavigate the globe to select the level you wanna play, then you gotta not suck at geography, then select the level section you want, then the characters, then load in, and then you can play. Horrible design. Now, I've been very critical of this game, and it would make sense that you would think it's not worth buying based on my reviews so far, but you'd be wrong. I totally recommend buying this. You just lack the media literacy it takes to understand this philosophical video. No, I recommend that you buy the game because the best value is still the collection that bundles this with its much superior predecessor. The sequel will forever remain in the shadow of its much cooler older brother, and for a good reason. That said, I don't think I can really consider it a bad game on its own. The core LEGO formula is still here after all, it just has a bunch of bad ideas stapled onto it. It's the weakest LEGO game I've probably played by far, but even the worst LEGO game is still going to be better than a lot of crap on the market these days. If you've already Platinum Marvel 1 and if you really need more LEGO Marvel, and if you already own it with the collection, I guess it doesn't hurt to try. And again, only buy this with the collection because it includes all the DLC levels for this game based on Ant-Man and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the MCU, and it even gets some non-MCU inspired levels, which are pretty unique. The actual best part of this game, though, is that you can browse the actual LEGO store from the menu, which is great for me because my iPhone 7 that I refused to upgrade can barely open the internet anymore. My only question is, what is this made-up currency? These aren't United States dollars backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. But I'd like to thank you for your full faith and credit for sticking around for this entire video. Please have a very nice day, and stay hydrated.